Good morning. Anybody who does have a question, please make sure that you do make it available to everyone when you are typing in that question under the question and answer section of the broadcast. So let's look and see what we have here. Does your team provide a service that assists people with their application? I submitted an application and was denied. I have over 20 years in the industry and thought I had submitted everything. Does your team provide a service that assists people with their application? I submitted an application and was denied. I have over 20 years in the industry and thought I had submitted everything correctly. I am currently in the process of submitting a new application. So this is Tracy. Tracy, we don't have a service that assists people. However, if you were assigned a technician, a processing technician, they should be able to walk you through what was wrong and how to fix it. We don't deny applications, we return them for correction, where you have the opportunity within 90 days of that return for correction letter to correct your application and move forward with it. So do me a favor and send me an email at licensing@cslb.ca.gov with your application fee number so I can take a look at it. Because I do need to see a little bit more information and see what happened with it. But again, denied is a strong word, and we don't use that generally unless there's some kind of investigation going on. If there's like an enforcement issue, they have the ability to deny an application. We will return them for correction and allow the applicant to fix their what needs to be fixed and allow them to go forward with that. So yeah, if you can send me an email at the licensing email address that I just gave you with your application fee number, and let me take a look at it, okay? David, will these slides be available for later review? So yes, per the instructions in the video, they will be put on YouTube later. I don't know if it's the same date or they will be at a later time, but they will be there so that you can go over them again, or take more time to listen to what was given out in the in our workshop. Can you please post a link here? So it looks like they did. And they also, Public Affairs also told you that it will be available on YouTube. Justin says, good morning. Is there a live interactive component for this? Can I get clarity on classification for my trade? I do see that they answered you. So if you, dependent upon the trade that you want to apply for, Justin, you would need to submit your application. We cannot pre-qualify you in the workshop, even via email or over the phone. If you have issues, if you have concerns on what you're doing and if it needs to be licensed, I would encourage you to send an email to our classifications deputy to get some further clarification on if you actually need to be licensed in the state of California to perform what you're doing. Obviously, if it's plumbing, you're going to need a contractor's license. There are some things far and few between that don't fit into any of the criteria that we have with our classifications. So in that case, we would ask you to give our classifications deputy an email and give him all the details that you possibly could so that he can make an informed decision for you. So his email address is classifications with an S at cslb.ca.gov. Let's see here. Jose, do you have a list of recommended contractors prep courses classes? Jose, unfortunately, we do not because we are not affiliated with them. So we are a state agency. They are not. Any of the schools or contractor prep companies that you come across are not affiliated with CSLB in any way. You do take the chance when you do hire them to help you with your application, with your classification, what's going to happen with your application. That is solely on you when you do hire those companies. Again, as they are not affiliated with us in any way. They are not a state agency, and we do not feed them or give them information. Um, the information I would assume that they receive would be from our website, um, which is available to everybody. Justin, I design and install IT systems. I've worked for my state and have operated there for over 20 years as an engineer and consultant. What's my classification? So again, Justin, I do want you to send a email to our classifications deputy at classifications@cslb.ca.gov. IT can be either high voltage or electrical, which would include high and low. So I would prefer that you give him that information of what exactly you're installing, what you're using, what is the voltage, and he'll be able to tell you what classification you should apply for in the state of California. Paul, I got an engineering degree, mechanical, and a JD of law. How much work I need to be done for qualification for licensing? I am a senior. Thank you very much. Well, Paul, all applicants are required to have a minimum of 4 years journey level experience, hands-on supervisory. Um, I can't give you you saw the transcripts and what you possibly could get for your degrees. However, until we have those official transcripts in our hands and we can evaluate them and see, then we can give you a thorough answer on that. But that would have to be submitted with an application. But as a whole, all applicants are required to have a minimum of 4 years journey level experience in the classification that they're applying for. Now, that work experience does have to be within the last 10 years of the receipt of the date we receive your application. So it can't be from the 80s. Unfortunately, we cannot, by state law, accept work that's old. It does have to be within the last 10 years. Even if we were to say, if we were to say, let's say you got 24 months, but again, this is just hypothetical. You would still have to be able to show two years journeyman level experience. But again, that would be looked at once the application was here and we had your transcripts. Jesus, I'd like to apply for a B2 license. Do employers work as qualifiers where I did building repairs and improvement? Do you need a letter from them? So for a B2, B2 is one of our newest classifications. You have to have 3 unrelated trades that you have performed at journeyman level for 4 years within the last 10 years. And your employer, can be your certifier. I don't know what you mean by do employers work as qualifiers. Well, anybody can qualify you. If you look at the work certificate, the certification of work experience, it can be the employer, it can be a fellow employee, it could be a union representative, it could be a business associate. So it can be your employer who certifies your work. Obviously, that person, if you work side by side with this person, would have the most accurate details of what you performed and know firsthand that you did this work for them. And that's what a certifier is. A certifier has to have the firsthand knowledge of the experience that you have. And as long as one of those titles fits that criteria, you can use them as your certifier. Again, it does have to have 3 unrelated trades. It can't have any framing, structural, rough framing. It can't have any installation of your plumbing, your HVAC, no wells. So if you, hypothetically speaking, if you did drywall, if you did lath and plastering, um, landscaping, let's even throw in, let me think, fencing. You know, you'd have 3 unrelated trades as long as you have that 4 years journey level experience. Those 3 trades would be okay to list from your certifier, you know, as your work experience for the B2 classification. Jose, thank you for your insight on the prep classes. Typically, how long is the process for obtaining a Class C contractor's license if all goes well? Um, So right now we are backlogged. Our processing technicians are working obviously full shifts, and some are working overtime. However, the amount of applications that are coming in are large. So you're looking, if all went well for the application process by itself without testing, you're probably looking at anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks, I would say, depending on what application, if you are applying for a brand new license, if it's a waiver, or if you're doing a supplemental class by adding a classification or replacing a qualifier on another license. It's dependent upon the application and where that unit stands right now with the application processing. Um, Once we deem it acceptable by posting your application, then you would go on to exams if you were not a waiver, and you have 18 months to pass your exams, whether it be trade and law or just law. Um, you know, so that portion is kind of dependent on you and where you're at with the testing process. Once the testing process is over, it then will go back to our issuance unit and unfortunately will be put into queue to be issued um, by the processing date that it was put in that queue. Um, so, I mean, it could take a couple months. Realistically, it could take a little more than that just because of the high volume of applications that we have received, um, actually, quite frankly, over the last couple years. Uh, I was a maintenance supervisor. This is Manuel for an HOA for 8 years and supervised repairs and installations of pretty much all trades. Does this qualify for B2 license experience? Well, Manuel, it could, but again, looking at the B2 classification, there can be no framing, no rough or structural framing, no installation of brand new plumbing or HVAC systems, um, or repairs. You know, so dependent upon what trades that you performed, maintenance supervisor, hands-on, you know, it would be dependent upon that. Um, so yeah, I would need a little bit more detail on what you performed or what you supervised for that HOA. Justin, do you require in-person testing? Well, I need to return to take a test. To that end, is there a way we can provide evidence of knowledge in our profession that will exempt us from the written test? So, Justin, if you have not had a contractor's license in California, chances are you will have to test for our trade and our law exams, depending upon what trade that you choose to apply for. Um, California does have reciprocity with Arizona, Nevada, and Louisiana only. If you happen to be licensed in one of those states for a minimum of 5 of the last 7 years in good standing, there is a possibility, if the classification is reciprocal with that state, that you could have the trade waived. However, you would still have to take the law exam portion for California. Um, but if you do not have a license with one of those states, there's no way around it, unfortunately. You will be required to take the trade and the law exams in California once you apply for a license here. And just a reminder, make sure that you do type your questions into everyone in the questions and answer section so that we can all see them and get your questions answered for you. Okay, so yes, Justin, they are in person. they are not something that you can do at home. So CSLB has contracted PSI, which allows for more testing sites in California, as well as more hours that they are open so that applicants can have a plethora of options. So once your application is deemed acceptable, what CSLB will do is send you out a letter stating that, hey, you're eligible for exams. You need to register with PSI, and then you get to do your, hey, I want it on this date at this time at this location in California. So it actually is a very good system, whereas before CSLB was only testing at a handful of sites, maybe 5 or 6 within California. It's still in California, but a lot more sites for people to use. Yasmin, is there a book I can purchase to help me? Guides on our website. To go to the search bar of our website, you can put in study guides and some will pop up. But as a whole, we do not. There is nothing for you to purchase from us when it comes to the exams. Now, our law and reference book is put out every year, and it is available on our website, again, for free. You can download it. It is quite a few thousand pages, but the laws are there. The laws are there for anybody who is going to need it.
Hey, Dana, sorry to interrupt, but I think you cut out at the beginning of your answer. So I think you were probably letting people know that there were study guides online, but could you just repeat the beginning of that? Because you cut out for a second.
Sure.
Thanks.
So Yasmin, there are study guides that are available on our website. There is nothing for you to purchase. So they are free. If you go into the search bar and type in study guides, it'll give you a list with the classifications and what study guides are there just as a reference. And again, our law and reference book put out every year is there for free download so that everyone has access to the laws in California. You're welcome, Yasmin. Byron. I'm applying under C61 category and subcategory D31. Is there a specific trade test for this? I understand the law test, but not sure what trade test that would come under. Thank you. So a D31, let me look it up. Subcategory D is a pole installation and maintenance. So the D subcategories do not have trade exams. They only have the law. It's the same experience still needs to be same as all applicants, 4 years full-time journey level in the classification you're applying for. And because it is a D subcategory, you would just have the law exam for that. And as you can see, Public Affairs is putting in, and it looks like it's private. Maybe I shouldn't be saying that, but putting in Yasmin, where it shows the exam study guides on the website, so that you can click the link and go directly to that. Yasmin, if an interpreter is needed, does this interpreter have to be certified, or can I use a family member? So when you submit your application, you are going to check on your application that you would like a translator. A special code is put into the record so that when your application is posted and deemed acceptable, you will receive documentation that has to be completed by you and your certifier. You will send that back into our testing unit, and they will either approve or tell you that you need to find a different interpreter. as far as I know, they don't have to be certified. They can be a family member. However, they are going to look at what their occupation is. Are they licensed? Have they applied for an application? Information like that. So they're, to my knowledge, they are not going to allow somebody who is licensed. And that person can't be listed on another application or a license. So depending on the criteria, when you fill out that documentation and send it back into testing, they will send you notification back whether or not that person is approved or not, but they do not have to be certified. And I do see that Public Affairs has now put on the link so that anybody can click on what examination study guides are available on our website. Our website, just as a FYI, has all your information. It really does. There's a search bar. All the forms are there. In different scenarios, as well as the law. It really is a plethora of information if you have time to go through it. I would also encourage you, first-time applicants, to go back and listen to the other links to the workshops in YouTube. As you know, there might have been a question that somebody else answered that you were wondering about that you didn't want to ask. And your answer could be right there for you. Sam, I missed what you said about taking over an older license. If I'm trying to take over an inactive license, what all does that entail? I didn't speak about taking over an older license, so I'm uncertain what you're speaking about. If I'm trying to take over an inactive license, I would need more information, Sam. If you want to shoot an email over to licensing@cslb.ca.gov, I would ask that you include the license number. You can address it to me. I am part of the personnel who does answer those emails. And just give me a little bit more information. And like I said, the license number so that I can look at it and see exactly what that scenario is. But I do need some more information for that to answer that question. Justin, do I need to apply first for the license to go get fingerprinted? Yes, you do. So the fingerprint package, which we call live scan in California, are not sent out until your application is posted, until it is deemed acceptable. You do have to print on our forms. We will not accept forms from other states or from other entity that maybe you applied for in California. It does have to be on our forms once we send it out to you after your application has been deemed acceptable. So we still have time if you want to ask your question. Let's give you a few more seconds if you want to input your question. Just so you know, if you don't want to ask here, you can submit an email to the licensing@cslb.ca.gov. CSLB.ca.gov with your question, and one of us will answer your question and return your email. When asking about a classification, I would encourage you to email our classifications deputy, again, at classifications@cslb.ca.gov. You can always send it to the licensing email, and we can forward it on to him. But do try to give as much information in your inquiry so that we do have as much scenario as possible, so we can give you the most accurate information. Okay, so I don't see any more questions coming in. This has been our, obviously, we just answered your questions. This is all the time that we have today for our workshop. We want to thank you for all your questions. If you have any other questions about your application, we do encourage you to drop an email to our licensing division. Here's our email address. It's licensing@cslb.ca.gov. Again, that's licensing@cslb.ca.gov. If at some point you need to reschedule your exams, you can get that process started by dropping an email to exams@cslb.ca.gov. We've also put together a list of available resources for women considering a career in construction. If you haven't already, be sure to download this presentation to get them. You can download the presentation on a green banner on the top of our homepage, which is www.cslb.ca.gov. If you're watching the archive video of this workshop on our YouTube page, you'll find a link in the presentation down below. We welcome your comments or topics for future webcasts. Just drop us an email at social@cslb.ca.gov. Special thanks to our licensing division and public affairs office for their help on this workshop. The Get Licensed to Build workshop is a copyrighted production of the California Contractor State License Board, and we want to thank you for watching.